Hi there, Dr. Jason VanHorn, professor of geography here at Calvin University. One of the most common questions that I get from my students is how do I get into graduate school? In this video, I'd like to outline the process step by step of how I recommend my students prepare, apply, and then enter into their choice of graduate programs. I'm specifically going to focus on the geo disciplines, but I think for the most part, you'll find this applicable to many other academic disciplines. So, if you found yourself here wanting to explore this process of how do you apply and get into graduate school, then you have found hopefully the right place and you'll find this information helpful to your pursuits. So, thanks, and let's get started. Today, I would like to give a short lecture on graduate studies in GEO. The what, when, where, and how do you get into graduate school in the GEO disciplines? I want to discuss all of these aspects of preparation, what you need to do to get ready, how you go about applying for the grad school, when you hear back a thanks or no thanks, what happens, and then for a few of you, you will be able to handpick where you go. And so I want to discuss this path of graduate school application in the GEO disciplines. So to begin, let's talk about what you need to know. Here's the timeline. First, you need to do well as an undergraduate. Don't dismiss the importance of doing well and learning and getting a good grade in your courses because they matter. And an entire year in advance is when you're going to be preparing for that graduate school. So an entire year before, in that fall of the previous year, you're going to be taking maybe the GRE, the Graduate Records Examination. We'll talk about all of these in just a minute more in depth. If it's required by the school, you'll need to take that. You'll need to decide on the programs that you're interested in applying to. And you'll also need to contact the faculty in those programs. And for many programs, you will need to apply starting as late or as the kind of deadline as December 15th. Usually December 15th, January 1st are the deadlines for application for the following fall semester. So nearly 9 months ahead, you need to complete this. And then between, about February to April, you'll begin to hear back from these graduate programs if you're accepted or not, do you have funding or not. And then you need to typically decide where you're going to go for the following fall by April 15th at the latest. Okay, so that's the general timeline. So let's talk about then how do you prepare for all of this and do all this activity. All right. So in terms of preparing for the next level, you need to do well as an undergraduate. Your GPA does matter, your grade point average, and of course, higher is always better. And the focus in the GEO disciplines can also help you. So as you do well, not only overall, but also in your major, either geography or geology or environmental studies or science or these GEO disciplines, that can matter too. For mid-level graduate programs in GEO, usually there's a minimum of 3.0 GPA in the last 2 years of your undergraduate career. And for higher level graduate programs or ones that are ranked higher, those requirements are more strict. In terms of specific details related to these GEO disciplines, students ask me, what do I need to do to make sure I have the best chance? Well, if you want to do that, you need to establish solid foundations in these geoscience and geo studies disciplines, okay? So in terms of geology, it's recommended that at a minimum you have at least 1 year of general chemistry, at least a year of calculus, and at least a year of physics. Now, more recently, some programs have allowed or involved, permitted computer science or advanced statistics in place of physics, but really you need to have those things, and it would be helpful to have computer science and statistics. And then last, in geology, you have to have field experience. You have to have taken a field experience course that's significant. Recommended that it's at least 6 weeks long or longer if possible. Sometimes you can only do a couple of weeks, and that will suffice, right? That's going to have to be what you have. But you have to get a field experience course in the field doing this work. Sometimes you can take a couple of them, and that will be excellent for you. That will demonstrate so much in terms of your preparation for a graduate degree in geology. In terms of geography, you need to focus in on general geography courses and certainly excel in your sub-discipline areas. If you're into geographic information systems and cartography or urban studies or planning or geomorphology, whatever it is, human or physical geographies, you need to excel in those areas and demonstrate your competency in those subcategories and overall in geography. When it comes to things like environmental studies, kind of more on the human side of environment and studies, being strong and taking your courses in ethics or public affairs, law, etc. These are, something you need to focus hard on and excel in. And if you love them, then that should say something to you about like your next steps. If you really love this stuff, then maybe your graduate pursuit is going to be a calling, right? It'll be a calling for you because you love this. In terms of the more science side or harder sciences, we might call it the STEM side of environmental science courses and natural resources or soils, kind of more biological tracks or ecology tracks in environment. You need to excel in these kinds of courses, and if you do, you can point them out in the application process. Okay, so the bottom line here is that if you do well in your undergraduate work, it should point to graduate school as not only something you want to do and you love, but that you've done very well in. You've proven yourself. Okay. So in terms of trajectories for graduate programs, really we have two kinds of trajectories. We have the traditional program trajectory and a professional program trajectory. So the traditional trajectory is really more of a research-oriented focus. You would spend, if you're doing the master's degree, about 2 years doing this, and it would culminate in a thesis, a major research project. And then for the PhD, it's typically going to take you an additional year, so maybe 4 to 6 years. Some programs are accelerated where you earn your master's degree along as you're doing your PhD, but those are rarer in the GEO disciplines. In terms of the professional programs, these are professionally oriented programs that are geared to be completed in 1 or 2 years, and they are meant for vocation, right? They're meant for you to get out into the workforce and start doing this work professionally. And so let's talk about some of those aspects. What you can expect in terms of a traditional path is that you will work with a faculty advisor. Okay, in those programs. The faculty advisor will oversee your progress in the program and maybe even provide, advice on certain courses to take, electives that you might do, but they will also help craft your ideas towards a master's thesis. A master's thesis is typically an 80 to 100-page document in the GEO world on a research topic that you will orally defend. You'll defend this piece of work that you do, this research, where you will present it and then explain it, and this will be around a faculty panel. And so this is required, an oral defense in the master's thesis at traditional path and research institutions. An example of this might be the Master of Science degree in Earth and Environmental Science at the University of Michigan. A traditional path approach. In terms of a professional path, You will also be expected to work with a faculty advisor who will oversee your progress in the program just like the traditional path. And they might also be able to help you understand and talk about the possibilities of internships. Some professional programs will require internship courses and others will not. Usually, these professional programs are project-based, not thesis track. And so then the projects comprise a major part of your coursework, and you can complete them in 1 or 2 years. Now, some professional programs do offer a thesis track, which is kind of like a hybrid between the traditional and the professional, and that is also a good option for some students. An example of this kind of professional path would be the Masters of GIS or Geographic Information Science at my university at Calvin here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay, and so what about the preparation of choosing a program? Like, how do you go about choosing a program? Well, first, I give you 3 essentials. First, talk to your advisor. This is what I would say at Calvin here. Talk to me. Talk to your advisors at your undergraduate institution. Definitely investigate the websites of the programs that you're interested in to see who are the faculty there, what are they doing, and what options are available for a degree. Do they have traditional tracks? Do they have professional tracks? Do they have both? Like, what are these options? If it's a traditional track, then you need to prepare more. Read some more, read even some more the papers of the faculty that you're interested in working with. If you want to pursue research and you want to do research and you want a graduate degree in these research traditional paths, then you should read research by the faculty that you might want to work with. It makes sense, right? And so you need to do this, okay? Convince yourself that this is actually something you want to do, right? You want to pursue this area of research because it's interesting to you. You're fascinated by it, and you want to advance knowledge in this area. Now, in terms of the GRE, some traditional programs are requiring the GRE now. It went away for a while because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but it is resurging back in some programs, and it is the most widely accepted entrance exam for graduate programs in the United States. It has 3 sections. It has a verbal, a quantitative, and a writing section. Now, take note of when this video was recorded, this lecture, because things will change, of course. The cost of the GRE will change. Maybe the requirements of the sections will change, after this is published. So just be aware of that things may have changed, and this lecture may be a little outdated in terms of this content. Now, in terms of the verbal and the quantitative sections, they have a 130 to a 170 scale possibility. That's the range of what you could score, and it's in 1-point increments. The analytical writing section is scored 0 to 6 in half-point increments. And so if you take the verbal, quantitative, and do your writing, you'll get a metric, right? You'll get a final score in verbal, quantitative, and analytical writing. You'll get these metrics, and these metrics are very important in terms of getting into graduate school. Typically, if you get a 165, we see in terms of the reporting here that usually puts you around the 95th percentile. In terms of the quantitative section, if you get a 164, usually this is indicating that you're in the top 90th percentile. So students do better on the quantitative section and do worse on the verbal. Now, the cost of the GRE is approximately $220. It is $220 this year. It'll be something next year, maybe a little higher. I don't know. But you can check out this web link here to learn more about the GRE. Also, remember that the GRE is going to be, when you take it, computer-based. You should already know this because you should already have prepared and practiced the GRE many times in terms of practice tests, the free ones available online and maybe some that you can purchase. in textbooks and things of that nature. Now, if you don't do well on the GRE the first time, you can retake the GRE 21 days later. And you can take it a maximum of 5 times in a 12-month period from the first time that you took it. You can take free test stuff, questions, and organizational materials, all on the GRE website. And they also allow you through their score select option to send your best scores to schools. But you have to send your sessions. So you can't break it up into like my best quantitative score on this day and my best verbal score on that day. You can't break those up any longer. You have to just send the entire score from the session, whatever you earned. And you can send scores to 4 institutions as part of that $220 fee. And if you want to send your GRE scores to other institutions, then it's $35 as of this lecture per institution that you send to. Okay. In terms of looking for graduate programs in GEO, what do you want to look for? Well, you're going to visit those websites, right? You'll do this and you'll see the faculty there and what research they've published, what were their thesis or dissertation topics. You'll learn a lot about the faculty and what they're doing. Of course, you're going to do that. Is that what you want to do? I hope it is. I hope you find the faculty advisors that are doing the things that you really want to accomplish in graduate school. You can also find rankings of programs. They vary for GEO across lots of different things, different entities, different websites, different organizations. So you can find these in many places. I've cited here geography, earth sciences, geology, GIS Masters Online, links to these different places which are rankings. And so you do have rankings. You have kind of top tier institutions that have pretty strong requirements of the GRE, maybe a high GPA, and then you have mid-level, and then you have your lower tier of graduate departments. Now, just remember that all departments have some strength or strength areas. Not all departments are just awesome at everything. But every department does have strengths. And so I hope that you won't discount mid-level programs just because they're not the top tier programs. Mid-level programs in GEO are awesome. They're excellent, excellent programs in graduate school, and they will do great things for you. Of course, the elite programs are going to be elite, right? And that might be your trajectory. But mid-level programs are doing fantastic work, great research, and putting people into great vocational positions. All right. So let's build a checkoff list. You've maybe taken the GRE, that's done, and you're going to send the scores. You might need to do letters of recommendation. You might need to provide a personal statement of intent and maybe even a possible writing sample. You probably will have to provide official transcripts, not just copies. And you'll provide a CV or a resume. And of course, you have to apply to the school itself. And for international students, you might also have to do an extra level of taking some sort of language exam and go through the entire process of dealing with an educational visa or a student visa in your application to come to a United States institution. So there could be so many things. So there's going to be some sort of checkoff list that you need to take care of related to every school that you're interested in going to. All right, and so here is the list. Let's talk about these. I tell all my students, look, if you're applying to graduate programs, you have to be organized. You need to be organized. Build a spreadsheet or a matrix of all of these things. Lay out your schools and the deadlines for applying to those schools in a spreadsheet. And did you complete the application? Yes or no? Keep track of what you've done, everyone. This is a job. This is a full-time job trying to find a graduate program and apply and get into grad school. It does take work. It is a lot of work. How many recommendation letters are required for the program? You will go into the portals of all of these schools and you will submit the names of those who are going to provide recommendation letters for you. You will get emails back that faculty member did submit the recommendation. So keep track of it. Find out that detail and keep track of it. You can keep track of the transcripts that you have sent or haven't sent, right? Keep track and bookkeep all of these details so that it gives you a peace of mind about what you've done, because it's complicated, especially as you add more and more schools to this list that you might be interested in. All right, so keep a record and keep it organized. Okay, so in terms of the GRE scores, you send them off if the school requires it, okay? Once you've sent your GRE scores, then you could either apply or contact the specific faculty member. I recommend to my students that once they send the GRE scores, go ahead and apply to the program. Most of the programs do not require pre-sponsorship, that the faculty member needs to contact you before you're allowed to even apply. Some do. Some graduate programs do that in GEO, but most don't. Most allow you just to apply to the program. And once you've applied, then I recommend that you contact the specific faculty that you're interested in working with. And it doesn't need to be scary, everyone. These faculty in the fall are ready to hear from you. Like, they're not going to be surprised if you're applying to their program and you're saying their work is awesome. Faculty love to hear this. So, introduce yourself. Briefly introduce yourself. Let them know that their research is awesome because of X, Y, and Z. You read their papers, it's in line with what you're interested in doing, and that you want to work with them. Okay? You need to know this. Like, don't make it a game, but really be honest. Honest about this whole process, because if you're honest about yourself and you're honest about the trajectory that you want to go, then you're going to have great satisfaction and flourish. If you don't, you might drop out of the program, you won't look at it as a calling but a burden, and it's just not going to be for you. So just be honest in this process. The other thing I tell my students is, can you visit? Like, if you are physically able to visit the graduate program, this can provide great dividends for you, because you will not only meet the faculty and what their manners are like and what their disposition is, but what the facilities are like at the school. And you'll also be able to do this one important thing: talk to the graduate students. You will be able to talk to the graduate students in the program, and they're not going to lie to you, right? You can ask them any question that you want, and they'll tell you what it's like there. And so if you're able to visit, that can go so far into making decisions about which schools to maybe go to. Okay, now in terms of letters of recommendation, you need to identify faculty who know you best and can comment best on your academic performance, your research capabilities, your writing expertise, and your commitment to the field. You need to know who those faculty are at the undergraduate level, and you need to cultivate those relationships. You need to get to know those faculty as best you can. And here at Calvin, it's not difficult, right? We are a liberal arts institution that has both undergraduate and graduate programs, and our student to faculty ratio is very low, like 1 to 15 or something like that. And I have students in the classroom where I have maybe 12 students to 18 students, and I get to know them. I get to see them. I know my students, and we get to talk. They come into my office. I have the most comfortable chair at this university in my office for my students. And so they come in and sit down and we talk. All right? Because the faculty need to write a compelling letter of recommendation for you. All recommendation letters typically are really glowing, aren't they? They're very good. But what is the thing that distinguishes recommendation letters are clear examples of you. that the faculty member can provide clear examples of you. So they need to be able to do that. If you know those faculty, then ask them to write a recommendation letter. Give them a clear organization of what is needed. Tell those faculty which programs you're applying to. If you need to provide it to the specific program or to specific people, let them know that. Definitely tell them the deadlines. Everyone, please do this. It's glorious when my students tell me the deadlines because deadlines are my friends. I work towards these deadlines. Also, give those faculty that are giving you recommendations your transcript, just a copy of it, and remind them, please, of the courses that you've taken with them. Some of my students have taken 3 or 4 courses with me in their undergraduate, and it's wonderful if they tell me what courses and when, and then I can look up their projects that I have saved, and we can talk about those things. Definitely meet with the professor about the particulars, especially if you do well on the GRE or other things that are of note. Let your faculty member know that you've done really well. So here are some examples of things that I've written in recommendation letters. These are specific things, everyone. I've cited these things because I know these students. So since 2007, I've written for 86 people recommendation letters for graduate school. So one example might be blank student is one of the finest students I've had the pleasure to know and has impressed me in her capacity to learn, work, ethic, quality of her research efforts, and her personal character. Or over the last 4 years, I've had 5 summer undergraduate student researchers whose work has led to publication twice as co-author contributors. So-and-so student is currently working toward publication with me as a co-author, right? Something like that. In the lower left, student so-and-so co-authored a paper with me as an undergraduate student. Like that speaks volumes, does it not? About your preparation for graduate school. If you've co-authored a paper with a faculty member as an undergraduate, that has proven that you're ready for graduate school in so many regards. All right. So the recommenders need to know you. If they know you well, they will be able to write things like this. They will be able to cite these things and highly recommend you because they're convinced that you are prepared. And if you aren't prepared and they think that, they will say that, okay? And so you want faculty to know you, you want to prepare well, and you want to do everything you can as an undergraduate to succeed in your work for your next steps. Okay, in terms of a personal statement of academic direction, everyone asks for this, a statement of intent. And so in 2 pages maximum, you should describe the main interests that you have in the field and why. This is where you tell your story, everyone. And you talk about the demonstrated dedicated commitment to the field of study that you're interested in. What things have you done in this GEO area that shows you have commitment to that discipline? What have you done? And everyone, you've done something or many things, and you can talk about it in your story. And also you need to put in there how you envision pursuing these interests at your school and what faculty you want to work with. I identified the faculty in my letter of intent when I was pursuing graduate school. I said, I want to work with so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. I mean, I was very, very upfront about that. And one of those individuals each time became, at the master's level and the PhD, my advisor. And that's very common. It's a way to be able to communicate that you have a narrowed interest. It's not just, I will work with everyone and anyone, but no, you really want to work with a certain group of faculty, and they are in your area, okay? 2 pages maximum, everyone. 2 pages. Make it easy to read and enjoyable. Tell your story. Okay, now, some programs will require a writing sample. It's somewhat rare these days, but they might require it. So what should you submit? Well, I recommend that you submit research-oriented papers if they're asking for a writing sample. some sort of capstone paper or a semester project paper, or even maybe a summer research experience with a faculty member. Like at Calvin, we have them, many students join me in research over the summer, or something like that, maybe semester research. If you do have published papers, you can include that, especially if it's single authored. But if it's co-authored or there are many authors on the paper, don't use this as your writing sample, because this has gone through multiple edits and recommendations. It had to pass through a peer-reviewed process, and it really might not reflect your level of writing, especially if it's not single authored. Okay, but you could include it or cite it, certainly as a secondary piece, but that's my recommendation, and we've had success with students doing these kinds of things where writing samples were required by the graduate program. Now, in terms of your CV or your resume, your curriculum vitae, this is your personal academic record of your accomplishments, maybe your publications, your professional experience, any honors that you've had, any work experience that you've had. And of course, all of us are at different places. My CV right now, I think, is like 11 pages long. It's intense, right? Because I've spent the last 19 years doing academic work as a PhD geographer. And so I have a great long record. You don't, probably, if you're starting out. But you do have a record, everyone. You do have a record. And you have lots of wonderful things to say about what you've accomplished. And so you do need to think about all of the things you're doing as an undergraduate as building your CV. You really need to do this. And so any summer research experiences you've had, you need to document them on your CV. Presentations that you may have given at the regional or national conferences, maybe even in the department. Do you belong to professional associations? It's very inexpensive for undergraduates to join professional associations like the American Association of Geographers or the Geological Society of America or so on and so forth. So you should do that if you can. Any honors that you have achieved or honors societies that you belong to, you need to put those down on your CV. And of course, talk about things that you've participated in or groups that you've joined that are oriented towards environmental justice or things of that nature, and cite academics. Okay? And so build your CV, but you have one, so provide it. Here is one of my former students, Audrey, and she put together lots of awesome things that she did, right? She was able to fill out after spending, a few hours really thinking about what did she know, what technology did she have experience with, what things did she participate in, where has she spoken and presented research, and what were her skills. And so she designed this as a great resume, right? A CV, and she was able to excel in this to be able to provide it to either an employer or to a graduate program. All right. You have many of these things, and you will be surprised as you work on building your CV. There are many, many examples out there of CVs or resumes, and so please spend the time to look at different templates and design options to fit the one that's best for you. And then do it, and just keep a record of it. My CV is an ongoing living document, and you need to think about yours as the same thing, an online or a live, ever evolving document. It's living, okay? And so I'm always updating my CV based on the academic things that I'm doing at Calvin University, and you should do the same thing as an undergraduate and then as a graduate student and beyond. Okay, and so in terms of deciding what strategies are there for either the traditional track or the professional track, or maybe applying for both, I think probably you need to really wrestle with the question about what do you see yourself doing in 5, 10, 15 years? Like, what do you want to accomplish? That will probably help you decide which track you really want to do. And if you've done like all things really, really well, you have a strong GPA, you did well on the GRE, you have strong letters of recommendations because the faculty know you well and they're able to cite those things, then by all means apply to top programs. Go for it. If everything is average or maybe above average, then consider applying to mid-level programs for the master's degree. And if you really excel in it and do really well, then maybe consider applying to PhD programs that are maybe higher in ranking or something like that in terms of your next steps. You don't always have to stay at the same university to get your master's degree and your PhD. I did my undergraduate at Indiana University, and then I went to Texas A&M University, an excellent program for my master's degree. And then I wanted to study with the best in GIS, and so that was Dr. Mei-Po Kwan at Ohio State. And at the time, she was the editor for the spatial methods section of the highest journal in our discipline of geography. And I wanted to go to study with her, so I went to Ohio State University in geography. And so, that was my trajectory. Think about like what trajectory you could have and what your goals might be. All right, so if you do all those things and you apply to a program, let me just give you a little bit of insight or knowledge about how you'll be evaluated. In terms of traditional programs, really they're going to ask the questions related to your potential as a scholar and contributor to a field of knowledge. They want to know, are you going to be able to succeed in this research process and really document new knowledge? For professional programs, it's really all about your past successes and your goals toward the future in your professional vocation. Those things are going to be very important in terms of evaluating you. So let's talk about why the GRE is so important. In the programs that require it, the traditional programs that look and require the GRE, if you've done really well on the GRE, it's going to validate everything that's been positive about you. It's going to validate your academic achievements and your GPA. It's going to validate the praise and observation from faculty in your letters of recommendation. And the last thing, and very importantly, it's going to open up new funding opportunities and scholarship opportunities for you in your graduate career. If you have this metric, this high GRE, it opens up campus-wide scholarships to you at that university. And if the department can land for you a campus-wide scholarship, then it frees up the scholarships that the department has control over. If you can, for example, at Ohio State, land a whole campus-wide scholarship, then the geography department will have more scholarships to offer others. And so it's really important. It can open up lots of opportunities for you, okay? In terms of professional programs, typically they rely solely on the GPA. And so they look at your GPA for admittance, and almost everyone has a minimum of a 3.0 GPA for admittance, and kind of a 3.7 out of 4 for consideration of scholarships if the professional program has them. All right, and so you might hear back, right? Starting in maybe January or early February to March and April, you're going to hear back. You've applied and you're ready to go. And so you've kept a record of everything that you've done, and you are cruising along. So maybe you're going to get a thanks, hey, join us, and we love you. You're awesome, and we want you to come to our school. And they might then offer funding. In the GEO disciplines, it's often common to get funding. Some programs only allow you to come if you're funded. What is funding? That is, funding is in the form of scholarships or possibly in-state tuition waivers that reduce the amount that you pay for your schooling. Perhaps you'll get a completely full ride scholarship and everything will be paid for. Or maybe not everything will be paid for, but you will land a teaching assistantship or a research associate position. These are paid positions and allow you then to either be in the classroom with students earning some money and maybe a reduction in tuition, or just being in a research lab and doing research and getting paid to do research, maybe under a grant or something like that. And so for many of the GEO disciplines, you will look for funding. Like, what is the funding? Some programs will accept you, though, as unfunded. And so you would then be paying your way into that program. And many programs do offer the potential for funding later. And so if you do really well in that program and your faculty advisor is advocating for you, it's very possible that you will land a scholarship or funding opportunities from the department later. It's very common to see that happen for those kinds of situations. It's never a guarantee, though. But you might not hear those positive words from the university that you want. You might hear, "No thanks, please look elsewhere." Don't take it personally. There are many, many, many students applying. It's very, very competitive, and small things matter. So do your best in the preparation and in your undergraduate career in GEO and expect good results, but you just might get no thanks. In terms of professional programs, typically they accept applications on a rotating basis. And so you can apply nearly at any time, but I do recommend applying sooner than later so that you really know what your next steps are going to be so that you can best prepare for your graduate work. Now, in terms of handpicking your options, perhaps you do really well and you've prepared well in the application process, and you're going to get to handpick where you go. This would be awesome, right? This would be awesome. That was the case for me in my PhD. It was not the case for my master's degree. I applied to about 12 or 13 universities, and only one accepted me. And I went to Texas A&M, and it was glorious. Those faculty are amazing there. I had an incredible experience, and that drew me further for my PhD. And then when I applied to the PhD programs, I actually had many that funded me, and I was able to handpick. That might be you. But maybe you've done really well. You've checked all these boxes. You've done great, and you won't get to handpick your destination. And there could be a variety of reasons why that might happen. Everyone, there's just no guarantee. All you have control of doing is your best. Do your best in your studies. Do your best in organization. Be as honest about yourself and your pursuits as you can towards graduate education. If you do your best, then if it doesn't work out, you can say you did your best, and that is okay. Maybe you just have a different pathway and next steps. All right? So I hope that this has demystified a little bit of what it takes to get into graduate school and what the process is for the GEO disciplines in graduate school. I'm Dr. Jason VanHorn, professor of geography at Calvin University, and I'd be happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm happy to try and answer questions that you might have, and you can put them in the comments below. And if you're interested in joining me at Calvin University for the Master's in GIS here, which is the program I direct, I'd be very happy to talk to you more about that. Overall, I'm just excited that you watched this, and thank you for it. I really hope for the best for you in your next steps towards graduate education, because we need you. This world has many, many challenges, and we need GEO folk to really provide successful solutions in our ever-changing world. So thanks for this time, and thanks for watching. Bye.